running the 7100 solar panels. My wonderful XYL bought me a Bengali key. So man, I have scored for ham stuff this week. And, it's great. But with that, I also want to acknowledge Craig back there. Craig came up and said, hey, I've got something for you for the school. And he gave me a Yaesu radio that he had. Raul over at the HRO had a Balcon he won somewhere and said, I don't want it. So that's headed to the school. And this will free up another HF radio to go to a school. So again, the plug is, if you have, not unlike me, I used to laugh at Craig because he had a Bandolero of radios. Well, now I had 16 or 17 HTs. So half of them are going to school. Those of you that have some equipment that you'd like to donate to schools, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Anyway, with that, let's start it off with, I'm Casey, Casey6B.
I'm Cecil, WD6LZA.
I'm Don, KE6BST.
By the way, hang on a second. By the way, Don volunteered to drive from Orange County to actually do a live video of Andre's presentation. So, big hand for Don.
Hi, Michael, AM6FP.
Jim, M6JWL.
Hang on a second. Just be careful, there are cables all over, so if you're getting up or moving around, or before you even move, look down at your feet, because there are cables everywhere. Alan?
Alan, you please, 6AK.
First WA6, Dracula's Naughty Foot.
This is like a single 6 on the modern version.
Joe, K6JUN.
Daddy, 86 OKL.
Russ, AJ6 STY. Marvin, W6MJM.
Jared, KN6CGB.
That's right.
Only 2 weeks now, so get it.
Mitch, G6BK.
Tom, W0NI.
Ted, W6SAT.
Craig, KM6AW.
Andre, K6AH.
KD6, NSH.
Dave, KD8 ODY.
Shannon, KD8, OLJ.
Fred, N6SMN.
Jay, this is my first meeting. I still have to remember my column.
But he just passed his extra.
So is that guy over there, right?
KN6 BLC.
Tracy with me on.
Here, AK-60.
Steve, W7SJK, and I have some leftover icon band plans and grid square maps if anybody wants.
New ones.
New ones,
Rob, KG6RGI.
Ron KN6AG.
Hi, Matt, K2EGB.
May, KI6SRB.
Patrick, K6SML.
Tom, W6JFC.
Bob, WB6MDU.
You know, do you want to tell Bob what happens for the last one walking in?
Oh, he buys the
No, the last person that walks in.
Buys.
No, you pick up the tab for the group.
Hey, Bob.
I already paid, but I have to leave early.
All right, with that, I'd like to ask those who took their test today, raise your hands. This is a group that everybody passed, and we were extremely pleased as we were grading them that they all studied. So that was interesting. But congratulations, and to you as well getting here. I guess you've done it every 3 months, right? Yeah, he's come in every month, and well, we'll have to come up with something new so you come in next month. But congratulations. So that's great, and I'd like to, Patrick, you'd like to tell us the statistics?
Yeah, we got 2 people passed extra, 3 general, and 5 tech. All passed.
Definitely want to acknowledge our VECs that make this happen. May and Patrick, they come down and make this all happen.
And also all the V's that support us. Without them, we wouldn't have a program.
But anyway, Now, for those that were thinking, those techs thinking I'm gonna get my general, don't do it next month because they changed the pool. Or race in and get it done before it changes. So,
It's not changing that much.
I know, but it does change it. But anyway, think about it, and those that are techs, hey, think about getting your techs. So, do we have any other business? Is there anything that you would like to add or tell to the group here? Yes, sir.
I've got general.
Great, excellent. Anything else? Any of the net controllers for the nets? Motor net? Nope. All right. And so for those that are new, anybody else new for the first time to the luncheon? Second. All right. Excellent, excellent. You're always welcome every third Saturday of the month. Keep checking the webpage, PopAssist webpage out. It is interesting. It's got a good crew making it up to date. There's a lot of information. There's nets almost every day with the exception of date night on Friday, no nets. But all throughout the weekend and stuff, there are nets. So feel free to join in, get radioactive. Anything else?
We've just been told that we're live, so be careful, no cussing. We are live, so be careful. Yeah, Mark.
What was the final count of the picnic?
Final count was approximately 150. We are now
There's a
live.
button on the side to turn that on.
So anybody that's at home that has
The
nothing-
input needs to get changed on this.
Well, you can do it manually on the side.
That would not be good.
There you go.
We had the Friars ale over here.
Don't step
These
down.
are all just waters, like we had a
Well, it
water.
starts at 11:30, but people are getting out early.
Water.
It's an HDMI, right?
That might be it. Free? No, see. Andre, thank you for coming down. It's a pleasure.
HDMI is that plugged into?
Here we go. Thank you.
Well, there's, I gave you 2 squares. No,
Hooked up.
now they're trying to get a bigger line. They're trying to get a bigger line. So they try to get half of all that.
Regular iced tea? Yeah, regular iced tea. It's like regular iced teas over here. You have iced tea too? You have iced tea?
Tickets, anybody?
Iced tea.
Tickets. I see you're reaching for your wallet, that must mean you want a ticket.
Tom, ask for one of those straws.
What, 5?
Thank you.
There you go.
Regular Pepsi. We have one regular Pepsi. Okay. And then.
I might, you never know.
Another diet. Anybody else have a diet? Is there any more diets over here? Diet, because I'm missing a couple. Diet. And here's some more waters too. Water.
Oh, I put unplugged because I didn't want to waste my battery.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to figure that out.
Not really. Don't call by the numbers. Just call by the numbers. Doesn't matter what number. This one says each. I think you said the wrong one. So we fold them and all that. Tickets, anybody? Got room back there? Monkey?
Yeah, if you watch the wires are.
Yeah, the wires are, kind of treacherous. Greetings. Because I want to see the screen, but. Sort of.
I suspect you've seen enough of these.
Oh, are you talking? I've been doing a lot of work on the main thing I've learned about Wi-Fi is avoiding multi-cancer disasters.
Yeah, until we get to IP6 anyway.
No, it's physical.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, in normal unicast, you just unicast, Wi-Fi has a nuclear technology. It just looks like underneath the physical protocols come back and forth. Memory. And one of the ways Cameras does that is by getting it distributed. If you go to unicast, oh, okay, current, so you can do it, almost instant. And if it doesn't get through, it may need to go down. Well, multicast are just sent and acknowledged with low constant rate. And even at the low constant rate, I have a load. When I try to use multicast, I never MIC because it lost my So right now, the current workload is multicast to unicast conversion. The actual thing we can track all of them, but then since I unicast back to which one. It seems wasted, but it ought to worth it.
But it works.
In order to take advantage of the time, we were thinking that maybe what we'll do is, if you want to, you can start the presentation, and then when the food arrives, we'll cut it off, let everybody eat, then you continue. How long is the,
I packed it full of lots of variety of topics to give the beginners kind of a chance at understanding it. So I would say 15 minutes to an hour.
Okay, listen up, folks. We're going to take advantage of the time. So I'm going to present Andre, which is going to do the Ardent System presentation. And when the food comes in, we'll just pause, and then we'll all eat, enjoy, and then at the conclusion of when we're all ready, fed, he will then continue with his presentation. His presentation's about 15 minutes to an hour.
Oh, all right, one more reminder, if you're getting up and moving around, there's cables on the floor. There's also cameras, so again, be aware of what you're saying or standing in front of the camera. For those that are watching the live stream, we're sorry that there's a lot of moving around and food will be delivered, so it may block some of the shots. But anyway, this is a great presentation. We'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to ask your indulgence if I could keep this a little less formal. I'll sit down and give the presentation rather than try to manage my balance up here with all the stuff. Yeah, I've been a ham for 50 years, mainly here in the San Diego County area. I had the pleasure of project managing some of the later BBHN software releases out of the group that worked out of Austin, Texas. And a partner of mine and I forked that project to become Arden, and we ported that software to commercially viable, tower-mountable, environmentally robust devices. And today there's an ongoing software effort to add features and improve the performance of these devices when they are connected to make a mesh network. You'll learn more about that in just a second. As a core team, we're comprised of 4 hams. Myself, Joe Ayers in Orange County, Daryl Quinn in the Houston area, and Randy Smith, who's in New Jersey, Washington Township, New Jersey. And just this morning, I learned that the Arden, or the YASME Foundation has awarded us a grant to purchase a 20 gigahertz spectrum analyzer, which will be a big help to us to make sure that our devices are in conformance with the quality characteristics required for these radios. To this point, we've taken it on faith because of their commercial certification. And I have a slide that wants to advance I'm not ready for, so. The team also was just awarded at the Dayton Hamvention the ARRL Microwave Development Award. We're the only organization that's been awarded that twice. We received it in 2014 and again 2018. So we're honored by the league's acknowledgement there. And the last thing I want to say before I get into this slide deck is I wear a number of different hats as it relates to what I'm going to talk about. I manage the software development that makes these things do what they do. I also operate the San Diego County backbone network for Arden, which you'll understand better at the end of this presentation. I also do a similar thing for the Southern Riverside County, partnering with people like Don Hill over here, who's a local expert and a staunch supporter of this effort. He and I have partnered on a couple of things and will likely partner on more of them going forward. And then lastly, the third hat I wear is I am part of the larger Southern California Federation of Arden networks. These are networks that are typically county-based, and today they span from the Mexican border up to Ventura and east to Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, Indio area, and cover about 18 million people from a disaster perspective that can receive the benefits of high-speed data when the internet has gone down. So what we do is we repurpose wireless ISP routers, and we replace the firmware. We teach you how to replace the firmware in them. This is one example. It's made by a company called Microtik out of Latvia. Have I got that right? Latvia? Yeah. And at the focal point of this dish is a Linux computer. You can see the Cat5 Ethernet interface powered by PoE, or Power over Ethernet, so that there's just a single data cable that goes up to the tower for this device. And also on the back side of that Linux computer is a software-defined radio that in this case operates in the 5.6 to 5.9 gigahertz range, and also a linear amplifier. And this particular one comes with a dish, and you say, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to afford this? This runs about $89. So our software is designed to operate in 4 ham bands, the 900 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 3.4 gigahertz, and 5.8 gigahertz. You need a tech license to operate them, nothing more. They'll operate up to 144 megabits per second using what's called 802.11n, for those of you that are familiar with the Wi-Fi technology. And our software is open source. It's available to anybody. Anybody is welcome to contribute to the Arden software development effort. It's distributed under the Free Software Foundation's GPL version 3. It's free to hams, or anyone else for that matter. So being an open source software project, we can't restrict anyone from using it. Of course, Part 97 defines the limits of being able to operate one of these devices. And the focus of the group is emergency communications, OGSCOM, Red Cross, the RACES and that organization, and so forth. Oh, CERT, and so forth. We have a real active user forum, posting well over 100 posts a week, and the development team is extremely active in responding to questions and technical issues that come up in the forum. We have a development model that's I call it agile. We're flexible in terms of things we hear that aren't working correctly in the forums. We will get after those fairly quickly, and we are always open to new feature requests. And we make our software available in a production release, which we call a hardened release. And we also make them available in a nightly release. So as we are developing new features and fixing problems in the software, the people that have reported these issues or have requested these new features have the ability to download an image and put it onto one of their devices and test it almost on a daily basis. It's an entirely volunteer effort. All of us are hams, and all of the developers in the core team are also implementing. So within their where they happen to live, they are the ones that are stepping up to make the investment in the backbone networks and operate them. So here's a little bit about how the network works. First, I'm going to describe the typical Wi-Fi implementation. You'll see the wireless router in the middle, lower middle, and you can see that the wireless part of that device connects the tablets and cell phones and perhaps laptops. And then there are a couple of PCs here that are physically wired to the device. routers typically have some sort of an Ethernet switch built within them. We call all of this the user domain. And then there's an external domain, typically the internet, that is firewalled off, meaning there's some access rules for people in the external domain to get into this network. So let me contrast that with what we do for Arden. Here's that device, and here's that user domain. Although we've installed a separate and distinct firewall here, and we have the same external domain with the firewall that was originally represented in the Wi-Fi diagram, but we've converted the wireless part of it to no longer communicate in that traditional Wi-Fi protocol, and we then link this device to other devices that have already formed a mesh network, within the geographic area. And this existing network really has no limits in terms of its reach and its range. Although there are certainly some constraints based on a specific device's power and so forth. So the way it works from node to node is that these devices are constantly measuring their link quality, and you strive for a link quality of 100%, which basically means that for every 10 packets that are transmitted, 9 of them or 100 of them, 10 of them, excuse me, 10 of them are received without error and acknowledged back. That isn't always the case, and as you can see in this illustration, A to C, that link has a 100% link quality, and we say that the path cost for 100% link quality is $1. Now there's no money that changes hands, of course, but we think in terms of cost when you add the links together. Like for instance, A to B has an 80% link quality, which translates into a path cost of $1.25. And some of these, like here's one for instance that has a link quality of 45%. We say that has a path cost of $2.10. So, for example, if you lost this A to B link, this 80% link, then instead of going A to B, it would go A to C to D to B in order to get there. It wouldn't use this link because if you add these up, this is $1 plus $2.10. That's $3.10. It's cheaper to go all the way around to get there. So that's how it operates. And these routing tables are constantly being updated when nodes, the link quality to and from the node ends up changing. So at any given instant, a node on the network knows the best route to get through the network to any other node in the network. You'll see that the network is quite extensive in Southern California, and I'll show you a map later on. But that network has 450 plus or minus active nodes on that network. So these routing tables are not constrained by much of anything. Whoops.
You're still using OL SDRD?
Yep, yeah. It uses a routing protocol called optimal link state routing. They have robust specifications. That device I held up earlier is in the range of 28 dBm, about 630 milliwatts. It may actually be 29. But anyway, and the gain of the antennas range from a low of about 11 dB to a high of 30. This particular one, I think, has a gain of 26 dBm, or dBi, excuse me. Some configurations are capable of link distances of 50 miles or more. Have one of those in San Diego County. In fact, it's the longest link that we have heard of for Arden, and it runs from Palomar to Otay, which is 48.8 miles. And it will withstand temperature extremes of minus 40 on the low side and 176 degrees on the high side. Now there are four manufacturers actually, that we support. We have added, we've probably tripled the number of node types we support over the course of about the last year. We have supported Ubiquiti for quite some time, but MikroTik has such a broad range of devices, and they're inexpensive and perform real well. And I'm gonna talk about 2 or 3 of these here in just a minute in more detail. And then TP-Link makes a couple of devices we support that are virtual copies of a couple of Ubiquiti devices. I don't happen to own any of them. I've never chosen to use the TP-Link, but there are others that swear by them. And then most recently, there's a company called GL iNet, and they make a couple of devices that are pretty clever and have some very useful use cases that I'll talk about here in a minute as well. So I'm gonna pass some of these around. I would just ask that I get them back when I'm done. So what you see there is the LHG, or Lighthead Grid. This is a device called the HAP-AC Lite, which as you can see is an Ethernet switch, and it has 2 radios in it. It has a 2 gigahertz radio and a 5 gigahertz radio. And we are currently using the 5 gigahertz radio as a Wi-Fi access point and using the 2 gigahertz radio as a mesh node. So with this device, you could have this on your desk in the ham shack. You could plug computer devices which maybe are running services you want to share with others across the network into these ports, and you can communicate with that device on your tower that is linked to the broader network, so that one of the computers you have connected to this box will connect to it via the 2 gigahertz radio here, and then to the larger mesh. This device is, I think, $45. Ubiquiti makes a similar device. It's called an air router, and I think if they haven't discontinued it, they will soon. It's a very handy device, and they're available on the used market. Has an external antenna. It has an Ethernet switch. The only thing that's really different about it is it only has 1 radio that operates on 2 gigahertz. And then how many of you have surplus Dish Network dishes or DirecTV dishes laying around? This device runs about $50, and it has a standard 40 millimeter satellite dish mount, and the company also makes a $6.95 bracket that is designed to replace the LMB in front of that dish or DirecTV network dish. That allows you to to add, 26, 28 dB of gain behind a radio that's already putting out 20, 25 dB in RF, and is a real quick and easy way of getting on the air. And then I'll stop here in just a second for lunch. This, I talked about the GLINet. They make what's called a micro router, and it's a USB dongle that just connects to a laptop or computer, and this is a fully functional 2 gigahertz Arden node, and it allows
Pepperoni sausage.
it allows one specific use case to work, and that is, let's say you're setting up a triage network in a public park or something similar, and the emergency staff.
Can I just
Yeah,
bring out the
yeah,
pepperoni sausage?
Excuse me, are you like halfway?
Yeah, right. I'm right at a break point. If I could just finish this slide.
Okay.
All right, please turn your phones and radios down or off.
So if you're setting up this triage, and then you have in that triage area a tripod with a high gain dish pointed up to the backbone network, and you want to distribute the network now across this triage area, you can do so with these devices, because every time somebody plugs one of these into a laptop, it extends the mesh. So as these laptops are scattered about the service area, these will either communicate directly with your node, or they will communicate with each other to eventually make it back to your primary node. Yeah, and these things are $29. So with that, I'll take a break, and we'll get back on this after lunch.
All right, sorry to interrupt you.
No, no,
but it's,
okay.
First takes yeah.
Food's coming, so let's take a break, we'll get the food, and then we'll get back to it, but we really appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Y'all know the priorities.